7:04.
That would be fine.
Thanks, Nick. Okay. Then we will begin with the minutes. Do I have a motion?
I move that we accept the minutes from
Second?
September.
Second, right over here.
Joanne, I think you might want to spell your name correctly.
Maybe. Maybe not.
And I wonder if we could either put some extra space or some piece of punctuation between the headings and then the actual notes about it.
I'm sorry. Where do you want space?
Under the director's report, like holiday closures, :dash.
Okay, I put a space in. Yep, it's all done.
Okay. Or like even lead application, after hours meeting use, friends meeting. And then at the end of point F, make meetings plural, please and thank you.
Yes.
Okay. Any other comments? All in favor? Thank you. Director's report.
Okay, so this is a pretty streamlined month for me. I was out sick for a week, so it feels like a shorter month than it was. One of the big things that happened this month, which has kind of thrown us into a topsy-turvy situation, is that Baker & Taylor, which is the wholesaler and distributor that we work with primarily for most of our book purchases, has suddenly gone out of business. And so they more or less have stopped shipping anything to us, and we're kind of scrambling to find out who's going to fill that void. The next big distributor that we're familiar with is Ingram, and we've heard through the grapevine that Ingram is so overwhelmed because of this implosion of Baker & Taylor that they may or may not be taking on new customers, although they are on the state bid list, so I'm not really sure what's going on, but there's the Mass Higher Ed Cooperative is having a webinar on that. That's sort of who we work through to get the contract pricing on a number of things. So we're going to find out what is coming down the pike, who's going to fill that void, and how we should proceed. But in the meantime, we've been set up an account with Barnes & Noble, which we used to have, sort of a corporate account with them to be able to order online, or in a pinch to go into the store and buy. We used to do that back in the day, but we haven't. It's probably been, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years since we've set foot in the store and done anything like that. But at this point, we may need to do that to have anything new on the table.
Just for my information, we're just talking, when you said supplies, we're talking books, or are we talking
Books,
about
not supplies, but just books themselves.
Books themselves.
Audio,
That's where
visual.
Okay.
Fortunately, the AV stuff, we have a secondary supplier that we've been buying things. We used to get things from both sources, but there's a company that we've been working with because it was, for a while now, the availability of things through Baker & Taylor was declining. The wait times were longer when things went to back order or things were canceled. And the AV stuff was also subject to that, and we had a ready alternative to Baker & Taylor, so we were getting things from both. So pretty much whatever we needed, we could get it from one source or the other. But the book stuff, I mean, the majority of what we purchase is print, and so that's going to be a bigger.
and you get a discount of some kind through Barnes & Noble?
We'll get a discount no matter where, but
Right.
it's not going to be as good as what you get when you do the wholesale, when you buy tens of
Right.
thousands of dollars worth of stuff in a year. So I know that Barnes and Noble's discounts, if we buy, if we place an order that's like over $5,000, we'll get a discount that's not quite what we were getting through Baker and Taylor, because they had the bid for the whole state, but it gets there. The problem is we don't typically place orders for $5,000 at a time, so I have to figure out how that will work to get the best discount. But again, this is really a stopgap situation where we're hoping that because everybody's in the same boat,
Somebody
pretty
will
much like
step
half
up,
the libraries
yeah.
were on Ingram and half are on Baker and Taylor. So this is going to kind of hit everybody, because even the Ingram people are going to see their turnaround time for orders slow down because of the increased demand from everybody else. So.
Where was Baker and Taylor based?
Raleigh, North Carolina is the base, I think. They had a buyer and then it fell through.
Yeah, they were in, I don't know where their headquarters was. It could have been
I think
North Carolina,
so.
but they were like the people that we dealt with, like the fulfillment centers were in Commerce, Georgia, which is close to Athens, actually, where I went to college. And so, and I think they were kind of all over the place. I think the media stuff was somewhere in the
They had
Northeast.
several.
But so yeah, that's been kind of a headache. We didn't really see it coming. I mean, we should have seen it coming because they've been kind of like wobbling for a while, but we kind of thought they were getting their footing. It's pretty unusual to see something as big as this, because Baker Taylor's been around for like 150 years. It's changed hands obviously a number of times, but it's just pretty crazy for it something to just go kaput like that. So that's going on. The Gale report, I think this is an agenda item, but we did not get the Gale report in time for distribution ahead of the meeting to have time for people to review it. We still did not receive it as of today, so we'll be watching for that, and I'll send it out as soon as it does arrive. Jack had asked I think you asked this during the weekend when we were doing the cleanup, about the roof. We have had some rain after a long period of very dry weather. I have not noticed anything up on the roof, but the roof has been pretty thoroughly gone over by actual roofers to make sure that anything that had been a problem was addressed. Additional public computers. Oh, so this is actually really interesting. So you may remember that we had 5 public computers added to the array of public machines in all 3 sections, the children's, adult, and young adult. And in the meantime, that was paid for with capital, through capital funds that were approved last
Fall.
October. Yeah. This year, through an initiative that Alex at Hadley Media was pursuing through the MBI, which is the Mass Broadband Institute, they got some grant money. We were included in that, and so it looks like we're going to have enough money for potentially another 5. So we initially went to the town in our capital request and said we need 10 computers, because we were essentially trying to fill all of the open slots that were anticipated to have public computers from the very beginning. And the best we could do under the circumstances was 5. So now it looks like we're going to be able to get the other 5 through this MBI grant, which is great, because that means all of the computers are essentially going to be of the same generation and type.
Can you clarify 5 from the town, 5 from the grant?
Right, yeah. So
Okay.
I don't know when this money comes through. I'm assuming it'll come through in 2026. That's when it'll actually hit town accounts. But it's close, and the 5 are in place. If you go and you'll see that they're in their places, the 5 that we've already purchased, with pieces of the foam stuff that came to protect the monitors is still on there, because CW Mars was doing their setup remotely. But they're more or less ready to be used by the public. So that's great. I'm very excited to have all of those slots filled.
So the ones we have are from the town? Sorry, I'm being
The ones that, yes,
yeah.
they're from the town.
Okay.
Yep. And
Just
so
take a
this is
minute.
exciting to not have to go back to the town for,
Yeah.
however long the original generation of computers holds out, because they are getting on in years. They're 5 years old, and the lifespan is that's kind of reaching the point where these things start to get wonky. But hopefully we get a few more years out of them. Lighting server replacement. As you remember, this room was all wacky with the controls, and it hadn't been so for so long that I've lost track of how long it was. But we did finally have the equipment installed to replace the failed server. It was actually back in March now that I think about it, it was back in March that it failed. And the equipment is in place. It was so convoluted to get it worked out between the town's IT vendor and the vendor that does the lighting, and to get it all programmed, but it is working. There's additional work that we need to do because we're going to move it from, not to get too involved in this, but the way the IT vendor for the town handles the equipment, they have ownership of some equipment in that IT closet, and they also have ownership of this new replacement server, and they're going to take care of it, make sure that it runs, gets updated, and everything else. And so that needs to be moved off of the CW Mars network and onto the town's secondary internet network that runs the voice over IP phones and the fire alarm, and which eventually will be part of that town fiber optic loop. So it'll make a lot more sense to have town-owned equipment, town sort of maintained equipment on the town's maintained network. So that's the remaining part that we need to do, and that's going to involve more additional work from the IT vendor and the lighting company.
I'm sorry, this is not what you're talking about, but we did just get an email from Audrey, who just walked in her door and is going to try to log on in the next little while. So I don't know if you need to let her in, or she can come in independently.
I do have a question about lighting. In a prior meeting, you mentioned that, yes, we had to do something about correcting some of the software and what had happened with the lighting. It wasn't, coordinating. And then there was something about there would be have to be a contract every year to have it maintained and updated.
Right.
And but when it becomes part of the town, do we have to still have that contract to update and maintain, or are we paying to the town to do?
For right now, we're paying for that expense because essentially, as I understand it, I mean, it's outside of the budget. There's no money allotted for this, and it's
Right.
it's a new service contract. And I don't remember the cost, but it's
It's
going to be a couple $1,000s a year, I think. And we did go back and forth with them to see if that amount was justified, and based on what they told us, how much work it would be to be monitoring, updating it, and sort of on the hook for when something goes wrong with it. That it was not outlandish, considering the amount of work that would need to go into it. They did also replace or add, it wasn't there to begin with, but they did add a power conditioner that will prevent power surges, because presumably what happened was a power surge, lightning strike, whatever, that fried the thing in the first place, and there was nothing there to stop that. Again, that would have been nice if in the original design that had been spec'd out so that those kinds of things couldn't happen, but unfortunately it did. So hopefully that is not an issue going forward. But yes, as far as maintenance things go, typically that would fall under the town's maintenance budget, and hopefully at some point when there's an opportunity to actually set a budget for this, we'll be able to see if we can roll that into the maintenance budget, which is outside of our scope. But to have the lights work, we had to pay for it. We had to say, yeah, we're going to pay for it.
But eventually it might be sort of rolled into what the town is doing.
That would be logical. Otherwise, then it starts to go,
Yeah.
to get kind of haywire with like, oh, well, these guys are paying for this and that department's paying for that. That's what they're trying to get away from and consolidate it under one budget. So that is good. I'm just relieved that the lights work, because we were having people coming in for meetings in this room, and you would push the button and sometimes the lights wouldn't come on for 5 minutes, and it was really a problem. It was totally unpredictable. And then the last thing I'll mention is that the access, the mullion for the front doors was installed. The doors are now locking beautifully, and we don't have to really do anything. We continue to press them and test them, but they are, every time they have been locked, it's now hopefully trouble-free the way it should have been from the get-go. Oh, and I also want to mention that we had a very successful low-key cleanup day on Saturday.
Yes. Low-key was the word.
Yeah.
Yes.
With Jack was there, and Jerry Harvey was there, And we got far more done with 3 people than I ever would have expected that we could get done. And we cleaned the windows, did a bunch of weeding and pruning of things, and so it was very productive, and we were out of there in time for lunch. So I want to thank everybody for pitching in on that. That was awesome.
We had time to clean up all the windows. We couldn't get the upper windows in some
Yeah. cases,
cases, but we got most of them.
Yeah, there's a few more things that we can do in that regard with the ladder, but we didn't have the ladder out.
That is good.
I wonder if, I'm not remembering when Jess Gorman's group was meeting here. I wonder if they met yet and how it went. When we were giving after-hour access to Jess Gorman, kind of as our first trial.
It was Linda Castronova.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh gosh, I can't think of the name of the organization, but it's Everyday Well-Being, I think, or something to that effect. That hasn't happened yet. It's
Okay.
happening, I think.
I have it in my notes from last time, but I didn't look back. I just wondered how it went because I'm kind of excited about
I think
folks
it's
using it.
2 Sundays from now.
Oh,
I
okay.
think I'll have to go to the calendar. It's either this coming Sunday or the Sunday after. I think it's the one after. But we have met. She has been in, and we have talked about that. We have gone over some things. It's a little bit tricky because because it's not supposed to work this way. There's no
I know.
specific key that I can give to get in that door that also works in, say, the closet door and other things. So it's kind of not ideal.
Okay.
Only temporary.
And then I don't see anywhere on the agenda, unless I missed it. Are you going to talk about the budget and the town meeting? Are we gonna have that conversation today? I'm a little confused what the guidance from the town is, or.
So it's a little bit unclear.
I called Molly because I was thinking I was coming to this meeting, and I thought, what are we supposed to do?
Yeah. So again, I think they're hoping that through some cost-saving measures and through attrition, they are going to get through the year. I mean, again, the financial part of this is not really my.
So we don't have to
We have not been. We'll put it this way: we have not gotten a directive from the select board saying, or the town administrator saying, please go back and prepare a plan for this scenario with this dollar amount or anything to that effect. What I do know is that there is a hiring freeze in effect. It is a hard freeze that they really are not interested in really dickering over. They're just like, no. And I know I don't know if you've heard that COA is really struggling right now under this because of the lack of the replacement of their outgoing director, and they just are very short-staffed.
So they're not even replacing the COA director. It's
as I understand it,
complete freeze of hiring.
as I understand it. So they're trying to figure out. I know there was a council on aging, I guess a board meeting that they were talking about some of these issues and how to what the reality is of having to work under these conditions without the resources to bring people in. So they're looking at all the options are on the table. Thankfully, we're not in a position at the moment where we actually have any vacant positions. So we're where we have been. However, we're busier than ever, and that doesn't slow down. So we have the numbers to justify it, to justify having additional people working here based on the stats. But at this point, there's no, that's not a conversation.
So, excuse my lack of understanding. So the expectation is we go to town meeting on October 23rd. Is there any expectation that we need planned to speak to anything for the library? Or Just, I mean, things may come up that people bring up, that's
Sure.
different, but is there anything that we would need to speak about? No, right?
Not aware, not
Yeah,
aware of.
okay.
We have no
I
capital.
was just checking.
We have nothing of capital nature on the agenda, so I think we just would be there for general information, if somebody raise something.
Okay.
And just to clarify all of this, you have 3 full-time librarians and then
Including
3
myself, yeah.
Including yourself,
Yeah.
and then 3 part-time librarians?
Yes,
Or 4?
yes. Which with the three part-time, yeah, so I should, I'll clarify this. So we have 3 of us that are full-time and benefited. We have 3 people who are part-time and not qualified for benefits because their hours are low enough that they are under that threshold and they're not in the union. Those three staff people, their hours collectively are roughly the equivalent of 1 full-time position. That's 3 people with that equivalent. And I will also say that one of those positions, which is 10 hours, has been funded through Lake Neg.
Is
So
it
it's not.
Emily's position, or is it a different?
No, it's City Collins.
Okay.
Her position has been through Lake
I'm
Neg.
sorry, what's it funded through? I didn't hear you.
State funds
Oh, state.
that we.
State aid.
Right, state aid.
Okay.
State aid that we get every year if we meet
Certain
their
requirements,
thresholds.
Yeah, okay.
So that's not even coming out of the general budget, and I don't follow any of the kind of social media stuff about this, but I know that, there's been some sort of a talking point that I think it applies to the whole town that we're on some sort of a hiring spree. We're not, we have several people that are that are available as sub staff, but those people, again, are, whenever they come in, are paid from state aid funds.
Mhm.
They're not paid from the general budget. That's just, something that we have to do to stay open. Otherwise the alternative would be to close the library because only 1 person is available to work. It's also a safety issue that there have to be 2 people in here.
Is the requirement always 2 staff people here?
2 is the minimum.
Minimum.
Okay.
Yeah, and sometimes that is totally appropriate and totally fine, and then, there's Tuesday morning and that's not
Mhm.
cut it, So it sort of depends, but yeah, I mean, we're not having people coming in willy-nilly. It's really based on, we really need that person here at that time.
Well, and to Joanne's point, I think it is wise if you're prepared, and I don't know if you're going to the event tomorrow. There's a talking session tomorrow about
The forum.
the budget, the forum
The pre-special town meeting forum
is
that
tomorrow.
the select beings are hosting. It's on Zoom and at the senior center.
Okay. And then the special town meeting in October on the 23rd. I think it's important that some people in the community hear that some of the funding comes from other sources, such as the state.
Mhm.
If they ask.
If they ask,
Yeah,
yeah.
because,
Yeah, I didn't know what was expected of us, that's why I asked. I assume,
Yeah.
well, I don't
think-
assume, I just don't know what's gonna happen, but I wanted to just double check that there was no expectation
No,
of us
there's no formal expectation, but I think
of cutting or
obviously
anything like that.
Some of the commentary just from watching official meetings of various boards. There have been some things raised in those meetings that were off base, and just
Right.
out of touch with the reality of the situation.
Did we clear up the fact that that if we sold the library, we would have to pay the state back $3.9 million?
Well,
Do we make any
that was
official?
that was conveyed to, it was not in response to any kind of official motion or plan, but that was conveyed to people that needed to
Okay,
get in the town
perfect.
administration so that they could, if in the moment when that came up, if it ever did, as a talking point, that they could understand that. But that grant came with the strings that we wouldn't sell the building or. turn
Right, it
into
just
something
came up at
else.
that meeting, so I
Right.
just wanted to make sure that folks knew that we would have to pay that grant
Which
money back.
meeting, was it the
Finance.
special
No,
town
at
meeting?
the finance select board.
Just
Okay. All right.
I think it was a conversation that happened somewhere, probably out of the limelight, not necessarily.
No, it happened at the meeting.
Well, I think, yeah, I understand it was brought up, but I don't know if they were really deliberating about about the issue, or if it was just being used as a, for example, kind of thing.
Yes.
But maybe, I don't know, it
Yes.
doesn't matter.
I just felt like it was stated on TV, and I
It
just
was,
wanted
it
to
was.
be
Yeah,
clear
yeah, yeah.
that it
Yes.
was like not something that we
Yes.
That is not a
could
path
do,
that can
right,
be
yeah.
followed.
Right. Yes, and no, and at that time, no one had that fact at their fingertips to say, and that's the practical consequence of any, going down
Yeah.
that road.
Right.
But yeah, being on hand for reasons like that, of course,
Are you planning on joining that session on the 23rd?
the
Being
session.
at town hall,
Yeah,
or town
The
meeting.
town meeting?
the special town meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always go to the
All right.
town meetings.
Any other miscellaneous questions? Not, I don't mean to make, like it sound, like I'm being dismissive of them, because they're perfectly good questions. In which case, strategic plan. Talking about the second,
So I'm not can you call it up on my screen? Because you're connected. And you made changes to it, right?
I made changes to a separate copy. I did not make changes to the original.
Well, you might as well put up the one you made changes so that we could.
Well, I didn't know if you wanted to discuss.
One thing, if you put up the one with changes, then we could discuss the changes. So you might as well put up the one with the changes.
Or even the email from the other day? Or we
Well,
had a
that's-
different? Yeah.
It's my other computer that has all of the files, not this one.
How have you been feeling lately? Are you over it?
I'm still coughing. I have that kind of residual thing, but
It wasn't COVID, was it?
I never tested positive for that, and I tested multiple times, and it never came back as that. They didn't. When I went to the doctor, they didn't test me for it there, but I told them that I had tested negative, and they just were like, it's some kind of virus. It's just some whatever's going around. But it was bad. I was sickest I've been in a good long while.
So it's section 2 tonight?
Well, I don't know if you want to talk about section 1 and the changes I made, or if we just want to talk about section 2.
Oh, I thought the changes you made were in section 2, sorry.
Oh, no, I made changes to section 1. Essentially, I added a couple more steps in things because it felt like items were shortcut. And there were also a couple of places where I thought there was a presumption that change was going to be made. And I thought there needed to be a clearer path for analyzing, figuring out a plan, and then deciding whether or not
So
to implement it, given staffing and or other concerns.
So typically what would happen once you have the long-range plan is that you revisit every year and then set the objectives for that year. So it's not always all mapped out when you start because it takes 3 to 4 years. So you kind of create those as you go along, but we should look at what you have, because it might be pertinent.
Well, is there a way to highlight those changes? Can you go to the
I
cloud?
can't do like track
Mm.
changes.
Mm.
That was the problem. And I wasn't going to go and copy every slide and then put it in Word and then do track changes and,
You know, I think this, let's not overthink it, like this just, you know, we
Yeah.
want to get through here, there's a lot more to do just in terms of like doing another draft, but, and we're gonna read through a final draft anyway and really, and, you know, make last minute changes there, so if there are things that, that need to change, they can. All right, so how do we want to do this?
Section 2, you want to lead it out?
Read them off. So section 2, lifelong learning, goal the library will provide, will develop a well-rounded set of resources, collections, and programs to support self-improvement for all age groups. Objective 1, build a sustainable year-round programming capability that addresses the needs and interests of all ages in a wide variety of interests and areas of inquiry. Do you want me to go through all the action items? Or?
Well, I think we can have a couple of minutes to take a look at action items.
Yeah.
And typically those, like we said, can change every year you open the plan, right? Like you can look at your objectives every year and pick what action items you want to work on.
Yeah, and that is part of this. Typically, again, to have an up-to-date long-range plan on file with the MBLC, they're asking you to submit an action plan every year that sort of
Yeah,
goes over
that's
what
what
did
we
you
did,
do,
yeah.
You know, what remains to be done, and so yeah, it's a living document that.
Also, the action items might be, you know, there might be action items for the trustees, action items for the director and staff, action items for the, you know, like we don't know where that'll fall out.
So can either of you two speak to where these action items came from?
The meetings.
Okay.
So we,
Well, they're
and the surveys.
Gotcha.
meeting surveys and staff, you know, meeting with staff. Yeah, all of those.
So that's why we where we had something that someone gave us that seemed relevant to add, we added in.
All right.
Do you want me to read off the action items? We can just talk about them.
And this isn't an exhaustive list. It's just
Yeah,
what we had that we thought was relevant.
it shouldn't be necessary to read them all.
Okay.
one thing I was wondering about for this section is if it made sense to mention specifically the senior center, or if there are opportunities, given that this talks about programming for adults and seniors, and that it specifically talked about, I thought it said something about, oh, I guess not, technology, because the senior center does some tech support.
It says patrons of all ages, so interested in learning more about computers and technology.
So we might like meet, you know, at the beginning of the first year, look at these action items, get a subgroup and add other action items such as that, right? Such as the senior. We just put these here because they were ones that we had seen in the surveys and we had heard from folks.
Right, and the stuff with collaboration with other departments. I mean, it could be collaboration with an entity that we haven't even identified.
Mhm.
And, you know, the thing, for example, with the MBI grant through Had the Media, I didn't see that coming. I couldn't have envisioned it. It just was an opportunity that came along, and we said, yeah, absolutely, we'll be a part of that. So some of these things are going to develop in ways that we don't know yet. So we don't necessarily want to preordain. Well, we're going to work with this organization
You can
or that
just-
organization. Of course, we will if there's a relevant crossover.
You can hit the button slideshow and it will.
I know, I was going back to look and see if maybe Audrey was there. I didn't see her.
Has she emailed again by any chance?
No. Yeah, I mean, think about even small opportunities that you had, like finding the babysitting for town meeting, working with Park and Rec. There are just a million ways working with other departments.
And that is happening in a couple of weeks.
I'm sorry, what is?
With the town meeting, that's going to be happening, the babysitting.
We're working on the volunteer part of this. We've kind of run into a roadblock with getting students from the Honor Society or
Girl Scouts.
those groups. So I have to follow up and see what other options we have. So we may want to just mention that in the meeting here, that what we're trying to do is have the library used as a site for childcare for the town, for the special town meeting, and generally for town meetings going forward, because we have a nice children's room and a facility that would work well for that. But we require some volunteers until groups like the Scouts or Honor Society students or various other students looking for public service credit. So we're still working on that.
Where do you house the library of things? Where are the things kept?
I like that it's the lot.
Where?
In the lot.
They're actually
Sorry, that's my joke.
they're kind of all over the place. They're sort of squeezed into various corners. Some things are kept closer at hand than others. We have some things that are kind of bulky. We have things like a guitar case, a keyboard that comes in like a big soft gig bag and things like that. So they're just kind of all over. We don't really have. We did approach the town several years ago when we were talking about getting this going and asked to have just a corner of the Goodwin basement, just to have like a couple of garage type shelves to store some of these things, and we were turned down for that. So that has not happened, and so we're kind of trying to figure out a way to do it.
Somehow I see like glass containers and curiosities,
Yeah.
right? It's,
Yeah, it's interesting that the library things. Not to get too off track here, but the library of things, that article that was passed around, was it from the Boston? What was it? What was the source of that article that was shared?
NBC News.
NBC.
Well, and I just shared it with two people separately. I didn't
Oh,
want to
okay.
deliberate.
Yeah, well, yeah.
It was just something that was
just as a point of
broadcast.
interest. Yeah, there was an article that I saw that you had shared that was about library of things, and several other people had seen that independently and mentioned it to us across the desk. And so we talked a little bit about it, and it's interesting because, like for instance, the keyboard that I just mentioned, it came back from circulating for the first time, and one of the keys was sprung. So, I was quickly on YouTube figuring out how do you reseat the key. And so these are the practical, this is part of the library thing. The challenge of the library things is that you grow it and then you have a lot of things with signs on them that say out of order while they fix it, because it's not typically the highest priority to fix a Casio keyboard. So we're working on it. It's a work in progress, but I don't think it's going to grow really fast because we just, it's something we don't have the bandwidth to have.
It has to be maintained.
It has to be maintained, and it has to have a place to store it. And there are a lot of challenges to that. So we're trying to figure out things that will be most useful with the least amount of maintenance, and not take up a lot of space.
We ready for objective 2?
Objective 2, local history resources made more accessible through curation, digitization, and collaboration.
is that Alan Weinbaum's personal project? Is he going to
This
do
is
all
what?
that?
Is what? Is that
We just
Alan?
put action item Alan.
Yeah. So this is one that's an ongoing project, and it's one that we're already kind of involved in, but there is a lot of possibility here beyond what we are currently capable of doing, again, for reasons of bandwidth and expertise, but there's a lot of opportunity for us to expand people's access to historically relevant collections that are not just owned by us, but that are just in the town generally. And that's sort of what we've done, started to do by digitizing some of the items that are in the town vault, for instance.
Where is the town vault?
It's in the basement of the town hall.
And when you talk about collaboration, that's mostly with Hadley Historical Society?
It's really, it could be any number of organizations that are interested. I mean, it could be folks, it could be...
Well, what about the high school folks? The trustees of the,
like the
Hopkins trustees?
those are folks that would be part
Yeah,
of
so
this, right?
interestingly, I just found out that, I don't remember where I heard about this, but the Hopkins just finished a project to digitize all of their Hopkins Arms yearbooks, which is something that we collect, but we don't have a complete set of. And so the ones that we did have, we had sent to Boston to have digitized, so that's in the collection. It's nice now. I think they had every volume but one, maybe. And so now we'll be able to, I can't remember, I may have already added it, but there's a whole collection that's out there that we can refer people to. And so just the beauty of having a website that can point people in other directions to things, even if they're not living here, is great. So that's really what we're hoping, is that when people are like, well, we'll just go ask the library, we'll be able to point them in the right direction to the resource.
And hopefully someday they would share that resource. You'd have an easily accessible copy here.
Well, yeah, I mean, with the web, I mean, it doesn't really matter, but yeah, we would like to we do get a lot of people that come in and ask us about our yearbooks, and, just because if you want to look at a physical version, the Hopkins folks the trust has their stuff stored at Goodwin, but they're not there very often, so, they have to, I guess it's by appointment probably. So it would be great if we did, I mean, we have solicited copies in the past, and we haven't gotten some to build up the collections, because it would be great if we had a complete collection of that run, so that people could just walk in and start flipping through them.
And I would think if you're an alum and you're in town visiting, the library's open, you go in and check with them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's the first place you might stop and say, oh, this is a building that's open and available.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we have a number of people that just literally come in, sit down, and just start browsing those just in a casual way. They're not necessarily looking for anything in particular. So it's cool that we have them, and it would be great to get a full set. So if anybody has Hopkins yearbooks out there, we would be happy to accept them.
Class of '82, but I'm keeping it.
Class of '82, okay.
I was wondering on the second point, where you talk about guidelines for physical materials that the library intends to collect, where would you store those?
Well, they would be in the local history room, but there would also be the possibility of some items that would be added to the general collection to be loaned. We've never really set out a parameter for what we collect, what areas of interest are relevant for that collection. We've sort of just inherited what was already in the collection and sort of worked from there. But it is a good question of, are there areas relative and relevant to Hadley history that we have been missing, and those items may not be necessarily rare. They may be areas of either probably not too much scholarly stuff, but I mean they may be general interest books or publications that we might want to have that people would just want to borrow. And we're just not keeping up with national publishing trends that may include stuff on colonial history relative to Western Mass or to Hadley specifically. It's not something that I spend, that I just don't have a lot of time to cultivate that collection in that way. because I'm not a special collections librarian. I just happen to be overseeing that room and trying to get it so that it is more accessible. But I do think that there should be a more formal attempt to say, these are the things that we collect in this area, and then spend at least a bit more time trying to scan things that are published in a given year to make sure that we're getting things that would be of interest to the community.
I would just sort of put out there, there is a public history program at the university, and I know that Marla Miller had students in that program doing a lot of work at Huntington Phelps.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, she's not running the program right now,
Yeah.
but she could certainly provide entree if it made sense to find out if there was an opportunity to provide students with an on-site.
Yeah, and I do think this is an area that I think would be very that we would be very probable to find grant funding or other sources of funding to beef that up, because I do think, I mean, yes, we can find volunteers, we can find people to do some of this research. I mean, for example, Alan Weinberg from Historical Society Board of Trustee has been working on this with me for quite a while, and he knows a lot. Without him, we couldn't have gotten this as far as we did. But we also, it would be difficult to have a bunch of people coming in sort of unsupervised to do this work. There would have to be a framework, and I think that's something that we could develop with if we had some resources from a grant to then attract some of the students that you're talking about.
I wasn't necessarily suggesting a whole class come over.
Yeah, but I mean, even just
but
a few volunteers. I mean, they need to be directed by someone that is really
that's always the case.
Yeah.
Whether it's something as specific as that or just
Yeah.
shelving.
Leveraging off your idea, Claire's on the board at the Porter Phelps Huntington House.
Oh,
And over the summer, they had 8 interns from UMass mostly, but also from Smith. I don't know if there were any other colleges, but these were students in the history programs where some of them were looking for work to do, and maybe they could collaborate with the library. There might be one.
Absolutely. It's definitely the case. But so what I would also say though, just again, for example, and this is the stumbling block in my mind, is that even with working with Alan, who knows so much about Hadley history, I still pretty much spent one-to-one time with Alan creating the metadata, using his knowledge to put it in the right fields to then send that off to Boston with metadata that would allow people to find the information and not just have a picture of a man with a horse and be like, what's this, the man with a horse? But you need to have all the data. Oh, this is over on the common, blah, blah, blah. It's this year. That's who that man is. So it's a lot of work, and
I think we're thinking, do we agree with these objectives?
Yeah.
As part of our long-range plan? Do the trustees think that the main objective is a good idea? The first action item might be to find grants. The first year might be finding grants for it, right? But I think in all these cases, we're trying to say, is this something we believe is important to plan for in the next 3 to 5 years? Is the objective worth it?
but I think to some degree you need to at least think about or keep in mind, do you have the space to do some of the things you think you want to do? I'm just, what are the real life parameters?
Oh, absolutely. So then it wouldn't be, if we felt that we didn't have the space, then maybe we wouldn't.
Yeah,
have
I don't think we're going to be
objective,
doing any
like-
kind of massive collection expansion. There just isn't the room for it, and there's certainly, we often get people that will cold call us with offers of an artifact of one form or another, and we're just not set up to do that. We're not. We're just not. We're not a museum and we're not an archive, and we just don't have the room to do it.
And I think the words digitization and collaboration point out that they may not be on site. They may be.
Yes, I mean, to me, that is the
Accessible.
focus of this, is that we're gonna take a very small, very small space in this library and turn it into an outsized powerhouse of connection to get people, the relevant information. And they don't necessarily have to visit us here. They can do it from Montana or Texas or wherever they typically come from in the summer to look at the cemetery records.
Can you remind me how many objectives are in section 2 in lifelong learning? Okay.
Yeah, we're just on.
Yeah.
Objective 3, develop a more formal relationship with the Hadley schools around areas of mission overlap. For example, information literacy, library media services, etc., and supportive curricula and other educational and social objectives.
And I think especially given financial constraints, and this is really important in the next few years, right? Like consolidation of.
Well, what is the staffing, the library staffing for Hadley Elementary and for Hopkins? Do they have a librarian over at Hopkins?
Hopkins does.
Hopkins does, I'm not sure.
The elementary hadn't for many years, and I don't think they had a paraprofessional there.
Brenda Lynch was there for years, and I don't know that when I think she retired, and I don't know that she
Yeah.
was replaced. I'm
I
not
don't
sure.
know.
How much collaboration do you have with the superintendent or the principals?
We have a good relationship with, I think with all of the above. I have more contact with Amy McKenzie simply because we're at, she's at department head meetings, and so I know her while the principals are not. So I don't really have that much direct contact with them. But Amy has generally been extremely helpful when we've gone to her with a request or a problem or anything related to the school. She's usually right on it and available.
And when I did the science of reading program here, the principal, I didn't know her, but I contacted her and she was really receptive, and so was
Yeah.
the reading teacher. Like, I think we can keep building, right? Like,
Yeah,
at one point I thought, wouldn't it be great if we had teacher PDs here, right? Like for teachers about library use, how to, if the town can't afford to have a librarian, but we have a town library,
Yeah.
help our teachers, get them PD points. I don't know, just creative thinking like that.
Do you have members of the National Honor Society volunteering at the library?
We typically get probably about a half a dozen students in any given year that come in, typically towards the end of the year, to volunteer because they're satisfying hours.
I think that's the end of where we are for tonight, right?
What's
That's
up?
the end of section 2.
Yes.
Are we just doing one section per meeting? Is that what?
That's what Joanne had proposed last time.
Um, Just to make it digestible, I thought.
Sure, yeah.
And then at the end, we can review it and think what we, kind of.
Well, that goes back to your point, Lynn, about adding other action items that come to mind. And I understand that you can add them throughout the process.
Yeah. I also feel like when we add action items, we need to make sure that they're something that, like, a lot of people are behind. They're not that's why I didn't add anything I thought of, because I thought it has to be something that's
Broader based.
Thank you.
What is the timeline on all of this? When does it have to be put into place? Sort of, when is the cycle up
Well,
for you?
we're out of date on a
Okay.
on a
we're out
plan.
technically.
And I had brought this up as a way, I had asked that we do this for multiple reasons. One was it's always good to have one on file, right? Because then we're grant. The second was, I felt that as a trustee who did this process the first time we did it, it really brought all parties together. Like, it helped give the friends a frame, the trustees a frame, like everyone then kind of had a natural way to move forward together well. So that's why I had asked if we did it. And the third reason was, if we start doing fundraising for the library, we have like a vision, then folks might be more likely to give. So that's why I asked that. Those were the three reasons why I asked that we do it.
Well, the other reason was to help create goals for the director.
Well, it sounds like you have to have them for the MBLC too.
You don't have to, but it helps.
Yeah, well, they're not beating down our door to have them on file, but if we want to be eligible for, you know, the same kind of funding that we use to build the library, then, and they do have other, you know, I don't know actually, I don't know what the current grant landscape is for them with the federal cuts, because some of that was coming through the federal government. No idea, but that's the idea behind it.
How similar are these objectives to the last cycle? What was done?
The last ones were ironically about building this building and about kind of feasibility studies and kind of getting us to the future of our library.
But also, it was about staffing.
Yeah.
It was about, it was about kind of bringing the library up to date, because the library had been in sort of a little bit of a lull in terms of like being understaffed and under-resourced, and also, you know, be sort of, at the time, the reason that I came to Hadley to start working here is because the library was not yet on CW, it wasn't circulating with CW Mars. They had become a member, but for multiple years,
And
they were only at the point of adding materials, but they weren't circulating them through CW Mars. It was still with the punch card.
there was a little
Oh, wow.
stall in
It was-
wanting us to circulate through CW Mars. There was some back and forth feelings about it because, you know, if you kept your stuff in your town, it stayed in your town. It was a little.
Were they affiliated with Bookmobile, or would they just not circulate?
No.
They were.
So we would get
Trying to
things
remember.
through CW Mars, but we wouldn't share all things through CW Mars. We could talk about that
Yeah.
another
Yeah.
time, but yeah. So that's where we were when we did the first plan. If you believe it or not, it was like that long ago. So,
We basically went. I mean, with that plan, we basically went in so many ways from the 19th century to the 21st century in a 5-year plan.
yeah,
I mean,
it was really cool. Like when I looked back at it, when Patrick and I like looked back at it, I was like, wow. And it really does feel good when you look back at it and you realize you've achieved those things.
So around when were those written?
2015-ish. And so, yeah, it should have been done around the time of the construction of the library, but then we were in construction, pandemic, chaos, you know, so it languished.
So for the next time, we will do resiliency, and Patrick sent me his sort of self-evaluation late last week, and I will now go and solicit staff member input, and I will also distribute the link to all of you to provide feedback, and then we'll aim for having the conversation. I don't know if we'll make it for November. Oh, speaking of which, Veterans Day falls on the second Tuesday, because Veterans Day is not a Monday holiday. If you want to try to schedule something now, or if you want me just to send something.
Oh, because it's your holiday. I'm working, so I'm fine
On
meeting
Veterans
on
Day?
Veterans Day. Yeah.
We can't. We cannot meet on Veterans Day because it's a national holiday.
My school's open.
Okay,
So it's,
But town services are not, so we need to reschedule.
So as we think about options, is it possible to move it up or back on a Tuesday or
Yes,
a Wednesday or the Monday?
yes,
Okay.
whenever.
So those are all possibilities?
Right.
Yeah,
No, anything is possible. Patrick just pointed it out today, and so I'm
yeah.
letting
So-
you all know that it has to change.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the typical hang-up with rescheduling this is that the following Tuesday is the
friends.
is the Friends meeting.
What if we just moved it a day after, like that Wednesday after Veterans Day? The 12th.
I think Audrey schedules, then it becomes
Audrey.
If
Oh,
If
right,
that-
Audrey.
is agreeable with the 4 people here, I am happy to check with Wayne and Audrey
Mhm.
and see if
Right.
the 13th.
Oh, I actually am busy on Wednesday nights.
Okay. well,
Or possibly that Monday, the day before?
That just means that if people are making a long weekend, then it doesn't work. I'm not, but you know,
Yeah.
if people are making a 4-day weekend doing the bridge, then
Well, I
it doesn't
will,
work.
Well, what about just doing it on Tuesday the 25th? That's the weekend of Thanksgiving, but I mean, if people are not going out of
I'm
town
actually
for that
not
entire
here.
week, would that be okay?
I think some people might be
I'm
traveling.
I'm
Oh.
traveling, but that's okay.
Oh, is the 4th not okay?
Yeah, I could do the 4th.
I think it might be better to move it up, especially with some of
Right.
the
That's what the
urgency
Gale-
around Gale.
Gale, right.
Mhm.
Yeah, 4th works for me that Tuesday.
Lynn, is that a possibility for you?
Mhm.
Okay, looking at that then.
So 11/4,
Oh,
Tentatively.
tentatively.
Why am I writing this down?
You need
Okay,
a pencil.
is
in
there-
there.
No, I'm gonna put it in my phone.
Any other business that we need to take care of?
Thank you.
I will try to be at the town meeting on the 23rd.
Oh, yeah.
It's not, okay. Will all of us try to be
Yeah,
there?
I'm definitely gonna
Okay.
try. I thought it was the 29th, and I'm glad you're.
I'm
it's the
pretty sure it's the
23rd.
23rd.
It's a, yeah, no,
Okay.
the
Yeah, yeah.
the email went out today.
Okay,
Okay.
Are you guys on the,
yes. The town,
mix of
See, it's
whatever?
already, it is the 23rd, I'm just remembering it the wrong way. Okay, so then November 4th would be our,
and there may be something that comes up in the
It's
town meeting
election
that's
day.
relevant for us to talk about too.
But there's not anything that we're voting for,
no, I know,
yeah. Unfortunately.
can't we just try and vote?
We could try. Okay, in that case, a motion to adjourn,
I make a motion to adjourn.
second, all in favor. Thank you.